نبدأ الآن الجلسة الثالثة للمؤتمر تحت عنوان Human Centered Leadership in HR and L&D The Future of Business. ويدير الجلسة مستر أمين سرور Global Manager Talent and Performance ميدوكيمي Limited بمشاركة المتحدثين مستر وليد حسونة CEO of Value, the Chairman of PayTabs Egypt and the Vice Chairman of EFG EV FinTech, Dr. محمد رفاعي CEO of مصر الخير Foundation, Ms. زينب خان Principal Consultant Tallagy Middle East and Africa. فليتفضلوا جميعا لبدء الجلسة.
تستنى وليد ولا ايه؟
مش عارف هو
تستناه ولا ايه؟ ايه؟ لا موجود في الفي اي بي لاونج بس راحوا يجيبوه تقريبا. Okay, good afternoon. It's absolutely fantastic being here again with ABI, getting the honor of moderating such a panel of experts. I guess we have lots of insights and lots of ideas and thoughts that we're ready to share with you. We didn't get a chance to arrange together, so for the first time I see Mr. Walid here, but I guess we have lots of open ideas that we can discuss together. So I'm not gonna make introductions now. I will give you the floor so you can give us a little bit background about your business, about how things are running, about the challenges you're waiting. But I will start with the lady on the panel. So
thank you, Amin. Basically, I'm principal consultant with Tallagy, and one of the key role we play is to facilitate that talent solutions for the organizations across Middle East and North Africa. And I think today's whole discussion was around about humanizing, about the different digital tools coming across and how we can bridge those gaps. And it is a challenge for us as well, because we used to do the assessments face-to-face and then it moved to virtual, and we were like, how does that work out? But I think, again, the agility and adaptability is one thing which we have to move with the future, no matter how disruptive it is. So now we say we don't know, but we will figure out. And that's our motto.
Yes, fantastic. I'm coming to you with lots of thoughts and ideas I want to learn from you, because I know that Value is one of the very, very unique corporate innovation fintechs in the market. I guess Value and STC Pay.
Yes.
So let's learn more about how corporate innovation is working, and how did you get the idea of pushing Value forward, and what kind of leadership the people can look forward to promote innovation and ideas like this.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the chance to go back into history and see how we were able to build through EFG corporate innovation as what happened with STC Pay. So on the answer of leadership, it's really very important that you have the support of the top person in the organization and the board. So the board at this time in EFG was very interested to go into NBFI for multiple reasons I will not discuss right now. It was very important for them to be able to lend money, because this is going to, the most important reason was to have a stable cash flow for an entity that has been all its time working into investment banking and being affected by macro and microeconomics in the countries they work in. So they had the idea of trying to build something that is different than what they have done for their entire 30 years before that. And they also wanted to make sure that they are not going to face any major setbacks, because it's a listed company, it's public not only in Cairo but in London too. So it's very difficult that you have major setbacks. So they wanted to hire someone to run their MBFI platform, not mainly Value,
Yes.
because Value was the idea of the team inside EFG that was hired. One of them, of course, was myself and other team members. So they wanted to hire someone they can work with. So they looked into who is being there. They've been my client for years, so they wanted someone to work with. And luckily enough, we were able to do the recruitment ourselves. So we have recruited people that are willing to disrupt a very solid classical model of consumer lending. And having said that, the leadership was actually interested, the board was not as interested, because normally boards come with a lot of gray hair like me, a lot of experience, and have seen mostly failure, not success. So building on corporate innovation is something that you don't have a lot of successful examples, especially in the region. And at this time, STC Pay was actually starting to boom, so there were not much of a decision there. Luckily, we're glad that our board approved this not on unanimous approval, so it was a majority approval. And then we got all the support that a parent company would do. And this is because of the type of leadership in EFG that pushed us through very hard times. Especially, we lost in the first year around 40 million pounds. Second year, we lost another 40 million pounds. And EFG kept pushing. Now we are at 200 million pounds of net profit, by the way. So, we have more than 1 million customers. So first thing is the right recruitment. Second thing is being able to maneuver boards and pitch decks and everything. And third thing is once you launch corporate innovation, you have to keep pushing until it's either a real success or a real failure. But you cannot judge this with a 12-month, 18-month spectrum.
Yeah, quite impressive. Thank you. أنا متشوق كمان أعرف تجربة مؤسسة كبيرة زي مصر الخير اللي تعتبر مختلفة شوية عن القطاع اللي احنا بنتكلم عليه. بس متخيل ان كل المصريين تقريبا يعرفوا اسم مصر الخير وتعاملوا معاها. فخليني اسمع من حضرتك برضو ايه التحديات اللي انتم بتشوفوها في الوقت الحالي مع الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن، مع التشالنجز في الليدرز، مع الاجيال الجديده. اي جاس ان معظم الناس اللي هتبقى بتشتغل في مصر الخير حاليا من الاجيال الجديده، لو انا صح في الكلام ده.
يعني
خلينا
معظم
نعرف
الناس.
اكتر شويه من حضرتك. اتفضل.
طيب اولا انا سعيد موجود معاكم النهارده. في اول مؤتمر كنت حاسس بغربه شويه، يعني لولا ان انا من الانستراكتورز في الاي بي اي، وكان شرفني ان انا اشتغلت في الاي بي اي فتره. والنهارده انا جاي لابس الهات بتاعه الان جي او المجتمع المدني. خلينا اديكم فكره بس سريعه جدا عن المجتمع المدني في مصر. المجتمع المدني في مصر 52,000 جمعيه اهليه. يعني في مصر في 52,000 جمعيه اهليه. 36,000 جمعيه وفقوا اوضاعهم الفتره اللي فاتت بعد القانون الجديد بتاع المجتمع المدني، والباقي بيوافق اوضاعهم. فاحنا نملك 36,000 جمعيه اهليه بتشتغل في مصر. مصر الخير من المؤسسات الرائده في العمل المدني في مصر. من 2007 تقريبا 16 سنه بتشتغل في المجتمع المدني. تنميه الانسان هي مهمتها الاساسيه. نشتغل على تنميه البشر، تنميه الفكر. ولذلك مصر الخير بتهتم جدا باحداث تنميه متكامله في المجتمع. يعني مش بنشتغل بس على الاطعام، مش بنشتغل بس على الاغاثه. مصر الخير فيها قطاع صحه من اكبر القطاعات اللي بتعمل في الصحه في مصر. فيها قطاع تعليم، نملك 1080 مدرسة مجتمعية فيها 32,000 طالب وطالبة. الماجوريتي من الستودنتس هم فيميلز عشان بنشتغل على المتسربات من التعليم. ففي 32,000 طالب وطالبة بنعمل معاهم في مصر الخير. مصر الخير فيها مجال للبحث العلمي والتكنولوجي، ففيها قطاع بيهتم بالبحث العلمي والتكنولوجي وبيهتم بالستارت اب بروجكتس. فيها قطاع عن مناحي الحياة اللي بيتكلم عن الثقافة والفكر وحفظ التراث والاهتمام بذوي الهمم وذوي الإعاقة. المجالات المختلفة للعمل في مصر الخير بتهتم جدا برضو بالمجتمع المدني. احنا في 5200 جمعية أو مؤسسة. مصر الخير بتشرف عليهم اشراف كامل، هي اللي بتعمل لهم كاباسيتي بيلدينج، هي اللي بتعمل لهم تريننج، هي اللي بتديهم دعم بشكل مباشر قوي لاحداث تغيير في الانسان. فتنميه الانسان هي مهمتنا الاساسيه، عشان احنا بنحاول نغير في العقول، بنغير في البشر. بنشتغل على تقريبا 6 مليون مستحق، واحنا بنسميه مستحق عشان ده حق من حقوقه من الموجوده معانا في المجتمع ان احنا نشتغل معاه. بيشرفنا ان احنا بيدير المنظومه دي 1080 موظف في مصر الخير، وفي 15 مكتب ميداني بيشملوا 28 محافظه. احنا بنشتغل في المناطق الاكثر احتياجا، المناطق اللي هي الناس مش بيوصلوا لها بشكل جيد، بنشتغل عليهم بشكل فعال. نعتمد برضو كثيرا على المؤسسات الأهلية الشريكة، وبنعتمد كثيرا على المتطوعين. فعندنا فولنتير يونتس محترمة بتشتغل على قاعدة كبيرة من المتطوعين. الأهم عندنا فكرة الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن او الهيومنايزيشن اوف ديجيتال ايدج. بنشتغل على الموضوع ده من خلال 3 اكسس. الاكسس الأولاني على الدونر. احنا يعني الدونر بيمثلوا بالنسبه لنا حاجه مهمه جدا، سواء السي اس ار في البنوك، والكثير من البنوك الموجودين الحمد لله ليهم بارتنرشيب كبيره مع مصر الخير، وتاريخ مشرف في المجال ده مع مصر الخير، سواء مع الدونر الانديفيدوالز والتبرعات الاشخاص اللي احنا بنعتمد عليها اعتماد كبير جدا. بنشتغل في الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن برضو في مجال الاتش ار من الموظفين لمصر الخير، واداره قاعده البيانات من المستحقين في مصر.
Thank you. I would like at this stage to pick your brain on something. So I will share with you a statistic about empathy. And I will ask you if you agree with this statistic or not, based on your experience in your organizations. A few days ago, we had training for the whole management team at Medokimi, and the company shared the statistic that young generations are 40% less capable in terms of empathy. Do you agree on this? If you agree, please raise your hand. The younger generations are less in terms of projecting their empathy at work when compared to older generations. 40%. Okay, so let me share with you a little bit of discussion we had. I'm a psychologist, so I'm going to share a kind of piece of information from psychology, that we have 2 types of memory: the implicit memory and the explicit memory. And the explicit memory is about remembering the cases, the facts, the situations, and the implicit memory is about the emotions. So across our life, we had a kind of reservoir or capital of emotions that have been exposed to. So if you can relate, if you go to a particular place that has some positive emotions on you and the history on before, you might be able to recall the same type of emotions, either positive or negative, because of implicit memory. And when it comes to empathy, we found that younger generations didn't have a chance to build such a kind of reservoir of emotions, because they didn't have the chance to come together with the family on a dinner and have a high quality time without being distracted with the social media, with the internet, and with the other topics. So they've been exposed to tons of information, and that has already impacted their empathy. But this is not the only fact. The other fact is that we all, as either older generations, older than me, or myself, or our esteemed panelists, that we also have a kind of, we're not training our muscle of empathy a lot. So we're facing such a kind of fatigue. So if I would go from empathy to leadership, because empathic leadership now is a hot topic that we might discuss. Let me pick your brain on this, Zainab. How did you see the situation of leadership and in relation to empathy?
Yeah, so I think building on the research we recently had, and that was one of the research we had post-pandemic, it is all about driving traits which are more people-related, whether it's empathy, whether it is building authentic connection, whether it is about emotional intelligence. Leaders need to now balance between the financial acumen and the people factor of it. And essentially, empathy is the baseline. You need to understand your organization, you need to understand your people. And you need to understand what drives them, be compassionate on, because things change for people in the pandemic, priorities change, and me as a leader or the leaders around us need to also adapt to what the priorities have become for the people. And that plays, I think, one of very critical roles in terms of adaptability, because where the trend was to be more directive in terms of leadership, now it is to be more empathic about leadership.
It's very, very good. From another perspective, been seeing an interview for you, and the anchor has asked you a question about the muscles and the brains of your company, and he was trying to mention the people on the floor, on the outlets, are the muscles, and people on the headquarters or in the office are the brain. And you did not accept this. He said that everybody on your company are brains. So would you elaborate a little bit further? And I saw it as a part of empathy, so if you can explain it a
it's
bit
not.
more about it.
So basically, I was actually in a workshop 1 hour ago, and I had a discussion with few startups, and I told them, your main mentor in a startup is your frontliner. So if you don't listen to your frontliner, you don't have a mentor. So it's very important that even when you hire frontliners that are doing that you can see as a very basic job, like answer a phone call or activating a customer or building a small relationship with a merchant, if you don't listen to them, then you will not know what's happening. So in the same interview I had on this podcast, I said, I don't like to have things being addressed or being told to me like watching a movie. I want to know what's happening, how they're acting. So it's very important that when we hire people in our organization, we make sure that they are engaged, and they have a voice that we can listen to, because in the absence of the people on the ground, you will not be able to know what's really happening again on the ground. And you will only lose, not because if you have the best team, the best ideas, and the best tech, but you cannot read the market, especially when it's a B2C market as ours, you're going to lose what's happening on the ground. And this, I ask everyone who joins our company to watch the movie BlackBerry and to see how important this is, because BlackBerry was at any point in time believing they invented something, it worked very well, they're better than anyone in terms of technology, but with the introduction of the iPhone, they bankrupted. So everyone in the company needs to know that despite the fact we invented this model in the region, despite the fact we look to be the best company in the region, we can lose our fit at any point in time and get distracted by other things. And if we don't listen to what's happening on the ground, then this potentially your main threat will be happening on the ground. So the troops that are on the ground are the most important people for us, and they have to have the brain to be able to identify threats and opportunities.
Yes, but let me expand a little bit more on this point, because statistics show that Fortune 500 companies' life expectancy age has declined from 75 years to 15 years now. So 75 years in the past century and 15 years now. So probably the game now is innovation. In a hyper-competitive world, organizations are facing the existential threat, so they are trying to survive. And you're part of this kind of innovation. Your success story is somehow like this. So how can we project entrepreneurial thinking, entrepreneurial culture, and from a perspective of leadership, how leaders can
Yes,
encourage
let me
people
go back to your statistics about the young generation. I think the reason, and this is my own assumption, I'm not sure it's right or wrong, but the reason that Fortune 500 companies are facing a low lifetime expectancy than before is that they are losing the young generation. And why they are losing the young generation? It's not because the young generation is not disciplined or not well trained or not willing to sacrifice their time as we used to do, but because they are not engaged. So when we try to hire people from very big organizations in value, we found something that is very strange. We found a creation of a change in culture. Everyone who came from places like Amazon or Uber or things like that, they wanted a playbook and a blueprint. Unfortunately, we didn't have any. We didn't have a playbook nor a blueprint. And this made everyone in the company engaged because we have very similar experience despite the age difference. So this is one thing that we are able to provide in our culture. We are able to give people that are very young, just out of college or even in college. By the way, we have like 20% of the people working with us, whether in office or troops, are college students. And we're giving them the power to make decisions that they will normally make in other organizations when they have 5 to 10 years of experience in this very same organization. So that's why I think the Fortune 500 are losing the good talent, not because everyone is moving to make his own startup, this is not true, but because everyone wants to work where someone can listen, someone can get engaged, and also they need to have empowerment. They have been empowered their entire life. So when you tell them, no, you have to listen to a certain blueprint or a certain thing, it's not working for them, especially that they know that AI and machine learning will come at a point in time and replace everyone who's implementing a blueprint or a playbook.
Okay, so we come back to empathy again. Okay, دكتور محمد، انتم مؤسسة بطبيعتها فيها هدف سامي، ولو صح اقول ان انتم مش بتعتمدوا على الفلوس كحافز للموظفين والناس اللي بتشتغل معاكم. عايز اسالك دلوقتي شكل القياده عامله ازاي؟ وهل احنا لسه في العهد بتاع ان المدير والليدر عليه انه يحفز الموظفين، وعليه انه يشوف احتياجاتهم، وعليه انه يدور على راحتهم، وعليه انه يحل لهم مشاكلهم ويساعدهم ويحرك اللي مش انجيجد ويحرك اللي مش موتيفيتد والكلام ده، ولا في شكل مختلف بتتبعه؟
طيب انا محتاج ان انا اشرح بس شكل المجتمع المدني بالتفصيل شويه. يعني نظره المجتمع المدني ان هو مؤسسات بتدار بدائيه شويه. مؤسسات المجتمع المدني دلوقتي ومصر الخير تحديدا يعني من المؤسسات اللي بتتعامل مع اموال ضخمه، واداره الاموال الضخمه دي لازم يتم بشكل بروفيشنال جدا، وان يبقى في اوديت سيستم قوي جدا على الاموال دي، لان هي في الاخر اموال ربنا، يعني اموال تبرعات. مستوى الاسيتس الموجوده في الموظفين في مؤسسه مصر الخير قوي جدا. يعني لو احنا مصر الخير تملك اسيتس فيزيكال وفاينانشال، بس الهيومن ريسورسز في مصر الخير قويه جدا، بحيث ان هي تقدر تدير الاموال دي بشكل قوي وبشكل فعال. البعد الانساني اللي انت بتقول عليه هو بعد مهم قوي، وده بيتطلب مش مهاره بس في اداره المؤسسه، هي مهاره في الاحساس بالناس. يعني احنا لما بنتكلم على المستحقين احنا بنقول لك مش مستفيدين، لان هو ده بياخد حق من حقوقه. الانسان البسيط ده احنا موجودين في المجتمع عشان نساعده، عشان نخدمه، عشان نوصل له الخدمات اللي هو عاوزها. البعد الانساني او البعد التنموي لو مش موجود في الموظفين بتبقى مشكله جامده جدا. احنا بنعاني في ان احنا في الاتش ار واحنا بنختار الناس ان هو مش بيبص للموضوع بروفيت، ده احنا نون بروفيت اورجانيزيشن، ما بنبصش للمكسب المادي، بس بنبص في نفس الوقت للمكسب الانساني. واحنا بنبص للمكسب الانساني بنبص للسستينابيلتي، احنا عاوزين مؤسسه تكمل ومؤسسه تنجح ومؤسسه تنمو بشكل فعال. ففي تريننج بروجرامز قوي جدا للموظفين بتوع المؤسسه. الجنريشن الجديد عامل مجهود جامد جدا في الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن. يعني الدونيشن الاول كانت بتعتمد على الانديفيدوالز، وان واحد يروح الستور يتبرع للمؤسسه، او ان هو يروح البنك وهو بيشتغل في الحساب بتاعه فيتبرع للمؤسسه. دلوقتي الموبايل ابلكيشن، دلوقتي الابلكيشنز المختلفه للدونيشن غيرت فكره الدونيشن في مصر، وغيرت الفكره ان انا ازاي اتابع الحاجات اللي انا اتبرعت بيها. يعني اتاكد ان الفلوس اللي انا اتبرعت بيها دي راحت فين بالظبط، ومين المستحقين اللي استفادوا منها واشتغلوا عليها فين. التغير في الاداره في مصر الخير، السي او هو اقل واحد بيعمل مجهود في المؤسسه. يعني هم مدلعيني في مصر الخير. السي او هو بيفاسيليتيت الشغل بين الناس. احنا عندنا قطاعات مختلفه، عندنا 17 قطاع، وعندنا قطاع بالاضافه لقطاعات انا قلتها في مجال الصحه والتعليم والبحث العلمي ومناحي الحياه. عندنا قطاع هندسي بيشتغل على مشروع ستره وسقف البيوت واتاحه حياه كريمه للانسان. عندنا قطاع عن الغارمين والغارمات والمشاكل الموجوده منهم، غير السبورت تيم بتاع الفاينانس وبتاع القانونيه والاتش ار والاوديت والاستراتيجيك بروجرام. السينكرونايزيشن اللي بيحصل بين القطاعات المختلفه دي ده بيقول لنا ان احنا ازاي بنقدر نخدم 6 مليون مستحق. تقريبا عدد الخدمات بيصل الى 30 مليون خدمه، لان ممكن يكون مستحق بياخد اكتر من خدمه. تتبع الخدمات دي والعمل عليها، وان انت تقدر تحافظ على الموارد الموجوده عندك في المؤسسه هي مهمه جدا. وان كل شغلنا مع انترناشونال اورجانيزيشنز او مع السي اس ار بتاع الشركات والمؤسسات المختلفه، هو بيجي يعمل اوديت عليا، بيحاسبني، بيشوف الفلوس دي راحت فين واشتغلنا فيها بشكل ازاي. اللي احنا بننادي بيه دايما في مصر خير ان احنا بنقول تنميه العقول اهم من تنميه البطون. يعني لما بنشتغل على تنميه البشر، لما بنشتغل على تنميه الفتيات، لما بنشتغل على تنميه الشباب، والشباب دلوقتي بيمثلوا تقريبا 40% من المجتمع. يعني لو احنا الفئه العمريه من الشباب زي الديفينيشن بتاع الدستور المصري من 18 سنه لحد 35 سنه، فهم يمثلوا تقريبا 40% من الشباب. هو ده حجم الموظفين، هو ده حجم المتطوعين، هو ده المتبرعين اللي احنا بنقول ان احنا بنحافظ عليهم وبنشتغل عليهم بشكل ايجابي.
مؤسسة كبيرة وضخمة جدا.
الحمد لله.
طيب. I get back to you again as our audience. I want to check with you one of the ideas that some think tanks are speaking now about leadership as in a state of crisis. They are trying to build on this concept, like we do not have leadership idols like before, or leaders are struggling to cope with the pace of changes that are happening right now. Do you agree that leadership is in a state of crisis? Okay, so let me get some help from Zainab. You are a principal consultant working for Telegy. You meet lots of organizations, so you probably know more about their needs.
So one of the recent research in terms of the Gallup was that the main stress on leadership is about attracting and retaining the right talent. Because I think today's agenda was quite touching on the different skill set which we have spoken about. And one of the key elements which we have heard is about reskilling. And that reskilling applies for the leadership as well, because what they knew was is no more valid. They need to start learning new skill set. They need to start going on the ground level to understand. And I agree with Waleed on it was such a humbling experience for the new generation to come in an organization which is rooted in their blueprint, in their policies and regulations, and they don't know it, they don't understand it. So either I have to take that decision as a leader to make that environment very agile, to address both the generation which are boomers, millennials, or Gen Z. You need to make sure that all are in exclusive environment. They bring that value to each other. In fact, one of the organization is testing having a buddy program where the new generation is paired up with either a millennial or the baby boomer, because you can learn from each other. And just setting that tone, addressing that as a value for the organization is all about leadership. The financial numbers will never go away. Every organization have to make that profit. You have to pay the salaries. But I think now more and more people are being in the center of the decision making. The organizational values are becoming at the center of the decision making. You know the value of people and how they would bring that regenerative assets in terms of the revenue. So there's a lot more focus from the leadership, a lot more. I would say in the recent years, we have seen that leaders are willing to be humble. They are willing to know that they don't know everything. And I love that, I think Hani today mentioned that he's still finding it difficult to adjust with working from home. And that's authenticity. He was here sitting in front of everybody and saying that, yes, I find it difficult. And there's no harm in it because we all have to learn from things which we don't know. So I think it's all about reskilling, even at the leadership level, and accepting that we need all new sets of skills at this point of time.
I guess it's quite. Okay, Wally, what's your take on this? How do you see the current state of leadership? And
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to be a leader in the world right now, and definitely it's very difficult to be a leader in Egypt. Yeah, you have the macro and micro are very difficult to handle. But one thing I've learned throughout my career that the most important thing is to make very fast decisions, especially at crisis time. Because in crisis, we all have the same ambiguity about what's going to happen tomorrow. So there is no better way to understand how skillful you are in making decisions except trying them. So I remember I've been into this position actually twice in my life. One with the Egyptian revolution in 2011 and one in COVID. And in COVID in 2020, I remember that, of course, Egypt was a latecomer to the COVID scene anyway. So we were lucky enough to understand that it's something going to happen because we've seen like the US, the UK, Saudi are shutting down. So it's actually coming to us. We had a meeting on the day that Egypt decided to go on a lockdown. We said, okay, there will always be three options for any company to react to this decision. No one could be proactive to that. At the time, maybe there was someone, but we were not proactive to this. We never thought about a life with people working from home and a full lockdown happening. And I would make like a speech to a team of 4 people, trying to tell them I've been there before, but actually on an economic political crisis rather than pandemic. And I told them 3 things. We either decide that we wait and see. So we just wait. We apply all the rules that we know about a lockdown, and we see what's going to happen and look at banks, what they're going to do, or other NBFIs, and then pick the best practice and apply it, which is going to be the safest thing to do, and no one would ever say that we made the wrong decision. Or we can go to a complete shutdown and decide we're not going to operate until the sky is clear. And this, in the lending business, for me, would mean that people will stop paying you their installments or their payments, because if you shut down in lending business, no one is going to pay you. No one is going to knock your door and tell you, come, I will give you some money because I owe you money. This is not how the ever work. Or the third thing is to our best of our knowledge and using our mentors on the ground, we try to know what's needed to be done, and we deploy this, and we'll be able to deploy this every 2 days. And everyone was excited about the fact, if it's bad for all. So why don't we innovate in how to handle this situation? And we came up with 5 decisions, what we're going to do on the 21st of March. And those 5 decisions were deployed. And then 2 days later, we found out that everything was going well for us, at least. So we continued on this until mid-Ramadan, where again, the pandemic has spiked again. We started taking some caution, shutting down some places and opening in other places. But the good thing that we learned from this experience that the first mover will have more time to adjust than the late mover. The late mover will come after the sky is clear, and by this time, if there was any opportunity or threat in the market, it would have hit them already. And if you go on a complete shutdown, then definitely you don't have the agility, or you don't have a dynamic organization that can change. So for us, we don't know what is the right thing, but we will try different things until one thing of them works. And luckily enough, we have shareholders that supports those kind of decisions.
This is quite challenging. Lots of challenges, lots of crises, I guess, you have. But let me ask you about something in particular here, because you're coming from an innovative idea, you're being a disruptor, and also now you're leading innovation. You've mentioned something that you learned from failure. So as a leader in this position, how would you encourage experimentation? How would you project psychological safety for your people? Is there any practice that you have to build a decision factory, getting to know what your frontliners are feeling about, how they see the business, what ideas?
Again,
they have?
we don't really build decision factories. We don't build anything in our organization. We just give everyone the right to come participate and pitch new ideas. The good thing about that people coming to you, so one example I had last year, one of my very closest friends, he has a daughter like 21 years old, and she has been all her life outside Egypt. She wanted an experience in Egypt, and I was doing this as a favor to my friend, to be frank. We have very young people in the organization, but this was a favor because knowing her, she was always on the party animal, and she was not concerned a lot with education. And she came in, and second day, she comes with an idea, and she pitched this to her manager, or the lead there, and they both came to me with the idea. And normally, any other organization, this will take at least 4 or 5 days to be able to pitch something to the manager and then try it further with the leadership. And the idea was great. We liked the idea. We implemented the idea, and it actually turned to be one of the models that we are applying right now in our system. The good thing about Value, it's all open space, and everyone can hear all the corridor talks. There is nothing in private happening, and everyone has access to everyone, not only having access to CEO and CRO and all those nice C's, but they have access to everyone. And if you have a good idea or an idea that we don't, okay, one rule we have, if we don't know the idea is good or bad, it's good. So if you have an idea that is not extremely bad, we will apply it. And with the risk of applying new ideas, you start building the culture of, if they accepted doing this at a point in time, like our marketing campaigns, we have done a lot in our marketing campaigns that is very controversial. So if they can accept doing this, then they can do that. So everyone comes to this organization knowing that they have enough empowerment, they can apply new things, and it will not take time to apply it, because sometimes people have very good ideas, but we tell them, not us, but others will tell them, okay, we can do this next month. Actually, they lose interest. This is how to engage younger generation. Younger generation, they want to be part of the change that's happening in anywhere they are, because their attendancy span is too small. So if they don't think they are doing something that of real value, they will leave and work somewhere else. So yes, anyone can pitch an idea inside the organization, and most of the time we will implement it in the same week.
I love your words that people have the right to project their ideas and take it forward. And let me share something that might go in line with what you've just said. You know what's the prime driver, the prime factor for burnout at work? But I know we have another panel that will speak about mental health, but there are many factors that are contributing to burnout. But there is a major and prime factor for this. It's losing the sense of control. So it could be workload, it could be other stressors and things like that. But when people feel like they have control over their jobs, they can make decisions, they can share their ideas, they can test their hypotheses at work and feel that such kind of entrepreneurial atmosphere and culture, they are less likely to suffer from burnout. But I guess that goes very much with what you've just explained.
Your only problem with what we do, that your turnover is so high, because people would go out and make miracles outside the organization, which is we're fine with again. So, but this would really happen.
Yes, I think the zeitgeist now is talent activation, not talent retention. So people are not really concerned about talent retention now, but what we are concerned about is how to activate the talents of our people when they are on board, how they can give 100% of their power and potential.
I always had this argument. I believe activating the talent is more important than retaining the talent. So if we get the 100%, as you're saying, for a short span of time, it's far better than having the talent for a longer span of time.
Yeah, then they become their ambassadors afterwards.
Yeah, we call them value mafia. Yeah.
دكتور محمد، اخبار الليدرشيب تشالنجز عندك ايه بالذات مع الجنريشنز الجديده؟ يعني دلوقتي الكلام اللي احنا شايفينه كلنا ان كل المؤسسات بقى فيها young old middle almost 5 اجيال متعاقبه مع بعض في نفس المكان. ايه التحديات اللي انت بتشوفها في شغل المجتمع المدني من النوع ده؟
يعني هو بصراحه الليدرشيب تشينج اللي بيحصل احنا مش شايفينه في الموظفين على قد ما احنا شايفينه في المستحقين. يعني بنشوف يعني ايه بنت ظروفها صعبه جدا والمسافه بعد المدرسه بتاعتها تبعد كيلومترات عنها، وفي الاخر هي تتعلم وتنجح وتخلص بكالوريوس وتاخد ماجستير. بنشوف ليدرشيب ستايل مختلف، بنشوف ليدرشيب ستايل وهو بينجح وبيشتغل. بنشوف يعني ايه حد يعمل انكم جنريشن وهو اصلا ما عندوش مشروع، وياخد مشروع ويبدا يشتغل على المشروع ده وينمي نفسه وينمي اسرته بشكل قوي جدا. يمكن واحنا بنتكلم على الليدرشيب ووليد بيتكلم على الليدرشيب، يحضرني ان عندنا فريق قوي جدا في سينا دلوقتي بيعمل على اغاثه اهلنا في غزه، وبيعمل مثال ليدرشيب قوي جدا. هو عارف ازاي يشتغل على ادخال المساعدات لاخواننا الفلسطينيين في غزه، عارف يشاركهم مشاعرهم، عارف يشوف احتياجاتهم ايه ويشتغل معاهم ايه. اللي هو عنده سيتويشن ليدرشيب باي نيتشر، هو عاوز يعمل، هو عاوز يشتغل. وهو من هنا بيجي الليدرشيب ستايل في المجتمع المدني مختلف شويه. يعني احنا ما عندناش عدد ساعات عمل محدده، احنا 24/7 الناس شغاله في الاغاثه في اي وقت موجود. الناس شغاله في ان هي بتاخد ريسك. يعني الجروب اللي شغال في سينا وشغال في غزه في الاحداث اللي هي كانت لسه من كام يوم وهم كانوا متعرضين للقصف وهم جوه غزه، هو ده بيقدم نموذج قوي جدا ان انا ليدر فعال، انا بعمل الحاجه فعلا، انا بحاول اوصل الاحتياج. واحنا بنجهز دلوقتي لرمضان وفي جروب كتير جدا شغال في المناطق الاكثر احتياجا والمناطق الاكثر خطورا والمناطق اللي هي يعني مسافاتها بعيده جدا في مصر عشان يجهز الاطعام بتاع رمضان. كل سنه وحضراتكم طيبين. هو بيقدم نموذج مختلف للليدرشيب. معظم الناس في المجتمع المدني في مصر الخير ما بيبصوش قوي للمكسب المادي، بنبص طبعا لتحسين احوالنا وتحسين ظروفنا المعيشيه، لكن مش هو ده الايم بتاع شغلنا. الكور فاليو بتاع الشغل ان احنا نوصل الخدمه للمستحق. النموذج ده بياخد مجهود في تربيته، ان انت تقدر توصل للكور فاليوز ده بتاع الموظفين اللي معاك، ان هم يشتغلوا بعد انساني ويتحملوا اي ضغوطات عندك من المستحقين. هو انت بتربي الروح دي، بتشتغل على تربية الروح دي. عشان كده لما احنا بنفقد موظف ولا حاجة في المؤسسة بنبقى متضايقين جدا. انت عقبال ما بتلاقي موظف ليه البعد ده بيطلع علينا، بياخد مجهود جدا. معظم العاملين في مصر الخير والمجتمع المدني كلهم اكس مالتي ناشونال اورجانيزيشن، يعني مش كلهم كواليتي عاليه جدا، وعندهم البعد ان هو التنموي والبعد الانساني والبعد الخدمي اللي احنا بنتكلم فيه. تقديم نماذج للقيادة للشباب الصغيرين والأطفال الصغيرين من خلال برامج مصر الخير المختلفة. احنا عندنا جيل دلوقتي الكور فاليوز بتاعته بدأت تختلف، بدأت أولويات الصحة عنده، بدأت أولويات الأمان عنده، بدأ الأولويات بتاع إن هو يهتم بنفسه تختلف جدا. الاهتمام بالنشء وتربيته بشكل حديث وبشكل فعال بتعتبر تحدي بالنسبه لنا. الايدج جروب بتاع الموظفين بينزل قوي، يعني بدا ينزل قوي ان هم دول اكثر انتراكتيف في المجتمع مع وجود الخبره اللي احنا بناخدها من الناس الاكبر. فكره التشينج مانجمنت واراده التغيير واداره التغيير هو ده اصعب حاجه في الدنيا. يعني كلنا بنبقى عاوزين نغير، كلنا عاوزين نحسن من الخدمات بتاعتنا، كلنا عاوزين نحسن من الكومبتنت بتاعتنا. حته بقى اداره التغيير بتبقى صعبه شويه، بنشتغل عليها بشكل فعال، لكن بنلاقي تحديات كبيره جدا، سواء تحديات ماليه، سواء تحديات اداريه، سواء تحديات في الفكر بتاع الجينيريشن المختلف. وده بنحاول نواجهه ان احنا نبقى دايما متقدمين ودايما في نجاح.
كلام عظيم. I keep the question open, but also I would like to look on the other side. I work in a company with 6 generations. Many of our colleagues are at this age of 70, 80, and they are considered talents. And the company is trying to get the best out of them, and they are still productive. So we also have young leaders at the age of 23 and 22, and they are also brilliant, and they are in leadership positions. What kind of challenges the leaders are facing now in a multi-generational place?
But I'll just step back to the burnout point, because one of the things I want to link it with the leadership is that, again, it comes to the authentic leadership style, because we would have mental wellness programs, we would have mental health week, we would have some yoga sessions done by the HR or the well-being department. But at the same time, the environment or the organization culture is something which enables the burnout. It is where there are pointing fingers, there might be deadlines which are always very critical. So having those programs parallel to that environment is useless. And that's where we again talk about the authentic leadership. If you are talking about the well-being, if you are talking about creating an environment which actually enables work-life balance, then you need to lead it by example. It has to come from top down. It can't be an isolated initiative for the HR department or the well-being department in some of the department. The CEOs, I know for a fact, make sure that they would call you at 10 p.m. at night. What happened to that presentation? That director or a VP would call his employees. So it is definitely a lead by example. You need to understand where you can actually put a line to create a more healthy environment, more environment where you are taking care of the employee well-being instead of leaving it for the HR. Now, in terms of the different generations and how we can talk about it, I think in today's discussion, we have talked about skill-based organization, and I definitely see that the future is about skill-based organization, and we would be moving away from generation, from ethnicity. It would be more like who can bring what on the table. There would be very diverse team, and I think Ian was mentioning in the IBM, they are looking at how they can upskill and reskill the current existing force. And this is all about it, because it would not matter what generation or what age group you are, it would matter what your skills are. And the more we adapt to that thinking, I think the future demands that.
Yes, fantastic. Lee, do you want to mention something?
And we don't face this issue much because we don't look to people with their experience and age. I'm the oldest person in the organization anyway, so. But the thing is that if we share the same skill set and culture or no. So people, when they come to join Value, or even people we try to headhunt, one of the things we need to make sure of that they share the same culture. If they don't share the same culture, and if we made a wrong decision in hiring, they leave us in less than a month. So there is no age restriction, there is no gender restriction in the organization. And everyone has the right to explain themselves the way they want. One issue that we have when we deal with clients, that they really want us to show, and it would be against us, but I will have to say it, that they want us to show some age respect. Because those type of clients, they don't want to deal with a team that is very young. They don't want to deal with, they don't like the fact that their account manager would be 21 years old. They don't like the fact that they speak to them like head to head. And this is something that we face, unfortunately. I try to step in and manage some of those accounts, but we lose most of them because they don't like the way the way the operation is happening. But in reality, it's not, I believe people are the same regardless of their age. So there are people that are conservative and there are people that are not. What we try to do, we try to avoid conservative people because they will not like our organization. They don't like how loud we are. They will want their own office space with a secretary and a private bathroom that we cannot provide to anyone. So those people, conservative people, are not part of our organization, and we try to avoid this. Once you avoid this, you've built the platform that will accept everyone, regardless of the age, skin color, or even gender. Because in other organizations I worked for, they had a gender issue. هي ما ينفعش تكلمني كده، هي مالها عادي، ما ينفع تكلم يعني لو واحد تاني it's fine but it doesn't make any sense يعني. ف we don't have the age issue, and when we had it people left in less than 1 month or even 40 days. When they had this issue they left.
We don't have enough time to open the space for inclusive leadership, but I guess you explained it in a very nice. You might need to hire some old people to.
Sorry?
You might need to hire some old people to work with you. Your
We
clients.
have old people. We have myself, the CFO, are 45 plus. We have leadership that are near 40s, and we have leadership that are on the mid 30s and early 30s. بس يعني we've never hired someone because of their age. We hired them because they like the company. They have something that we don't have, and they have the right skill set. And they definitely, on leadership, they have some experience and something similar to what we have done. But we've never thought about age and experience.
Okay, conscious of time, I guess we have to open the space now, the stage now for any questions. If you'd like to share, to ask our esteemed panel any questions about leadership, about the role of HR, about what you're currently facing in your organizations.
مساء الخير. وليد، عايز اسالك سؤال ممكن عشان انت يمكن الاندستري اللي انت فيها بتتعامل كتير مع الجنريشن الجديد. How do you manage التشالنج بتاع الاكسبكتيشنز بتاع الجنريشن الجديده؟ يمكن احنا في البانكينج سيكتور دلوقتي وار فيسنج المشكله بتاعت الهاي اكسبكتيشنز بتاعتهم. كلهم عايزين بعد سنه او فيو مانثس ان هو يترقى وسالاري انكريز وبروموشن، وبعضهم كمان عنده المشكله بتاعت الكوميتمنت. لا احنا ريجيد سيستم، احنا عندنا ريجيليشنز جديده او كتيره، ما فيش روم قوي للانوفيشن. فهاو دو يو هاندل ومانج التشالنج ده؟ لان فعلا القصه متعبه جدا. sometimes احنا we hire less qualified candidates عشان to avoid فكره التيرن اوفر العالي من الجنريشن او السيجمنت ده.
بص يا فراج، زي ما قلت احنا اللي بنقدر ندي للناس الانجيجمنت. يعني انا ما بقدرش اديله حاجه اكتر من I don't have anything to offer more than the bank غير الانجيجمنت. غالبا كمان انا بديله مرتب اقل، بس هو بيبقى عارف ان الروم تو جرو عندنا اسرع which is the most important thing. ومش لازم تكون الروم تو جرو برضو انت بتبص على ريتنشن، احنا بنبص على اكتيفيشن. فاحنا ممكن تبقى الروم تو جرو بالنسبه له ان هو يشتغل السنه الجايه في مكان تاني مش في نفس المكان ده and it's okay with us. the message we always deliver to our team ان انت you will learn faster than anywhere else because عندك flexibility and the agility which is very important. انا فاهم طبعا البنوك صعب تعمل كده because of all the يعني كل ال restrictions اللي عليها، بس احنا we give them room ان هم يقدروا to deploy new things، يقدروا ياخدوا experience، بيشتغلوا very closely مع التيم اللي اكبر منهم which is very important، بياخدوا exposure مع outside clients. يعني هديك example كده على البانكينج سيكتور وانا وانت جايين منه. يعني احنا اغلب البنوك في مصر they don't allow ان حد من الفرع يبعت ايميل external. فانت لو انت عملت كده ما هو طبيعي مش عايز يشتغل في السيكتور ده. يعني احنا بنعمل العكس، احنا بنديهم الفرصه دي. فاجان it's engagement and they know they will be able to grow مش شرط in the same organization but in another organization. In your case انا متعاطف معاك جدا لان عارف ان اغلب الحاجات دي بره ايدك، وان انت كمان عايز ريتنشن عالي because الناس بتتعلم very specific experience. ف once you lose them you need to train a new one and the learning curve is very difficult. بس بنعرف ناخد منكم الناس عشان احنا بنعملهم بطريقه مختلفه في الاخر.
Sorry, can I just add on this one? Because retention is one of the, I think it's not only in banking sector, I think overall in Egypt because of the inflation and everything, it's quite a big problem with the HR practitioner all across. And my take on this, especially with the new generation, is that it's engagement, but also it's linking their purpose. Because the new generation is quite committed to what they believe in. So it has to resonate with them. And that comes back to one step before of who is your target audience. Do they really have the same values you bring on the table? Because it might be just a stepping stone for them to get the first job and then move around, and that is very normal. But if you make sure that at the recruitment time you have recruited the people who shared the same purpose, who shared the same value, and you engage them in the right way, then your retention rate should improve. I wouldn't say, yes, we understand. It's a bit tricky at this point of time, but it should improve.
Any other questions? Okay, so it's time to thank our esteemed panel. Thanks, Dr. Mohammed Rifai, CEO, Masr Khair, Ms. Zainab Khan, Principal Consultant, LG Middle East, North Africa, and Mr. Walid Hassouna, CEO, Value, and Vice Chairman of PayDabs. Thanks a lot, and I hope you gain some benefits from this discussion, some insights, and thanks for the organizers for the event. Thank you.
شكرا للمتحدثين بالجلسة على هذه المناقشات القيمة.